So my friend, you've been lifting for months and you still don't look the way that you want to look, and you're wondering why. Well, on this beautiful snowy day, it's actually really bad. I thought it's April frickin' 2nd. Where's the sun, people? On this beautiful snowy day, I'm going to explain how I went through this same struggle, how I got through it, and hopefully by the end of it you can get through it and understand and have a proper path as to why this is happening and how you can solve it. So first, the first mistake that I was making was I was lifting for 2 years. And prior to that, I had no understanding of how food affects the way that you look. I thought I was just gonna pump up a bunch of muscles, go to the gym every single day, and look jacked, look ripped, and all the girls were gonna come to me and I would be the super sexy Chad that's just like, oh yeah, I get all the bitches. Come on guys, I look so nice right now. But yeah, so I was extremely disappointed by after 2 years of lifting and basically looking like I didn't even make a single ounce of progress. I looked good in a shirt because I was, chunky. I got kind of fat, and then with like minor definition. But when I took off my shirt, I just felt so insecure. I was like, dude, what kind of progress have I made? It literally looks like I haven't even picked up a dumbbell in my life. What's going on? So it was kind of shitty, honestly. I didn't like how I looked. I didn't understand what was going on, and I was super frustrated because I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted to see. Until I read a book called Fat Chance by Dr. I don't even know his name, but some sort of doctor. And it really opened my eyes as to how food affects the way that you look. So what I originally thought when I first started lifting, like I mentioned, I'm just gonna lift and I'm gonna look huge. But no. And then I got into this whole notion of calorie counting, and I'm going to start tracking my calories, and this way I'm going to recomposite my body and look the way that I want to look. Well, that fell through the window as well, because what I learned to figure out is there's 3 aspects to the human body when it comes to nutrition wise. First is your calories. Second is your macronutrients. And third is your micronutrients. So what do all these different things have in common, and what do they play? What kind of role do they have? Well, first, calories determine how much you weigh. So if you're trying to look a specific way and you're only looking or targeting or thinking about your calories, yeah, have fun spinning in circles for the rest of your life. Macronutrients determine how you look. And this is what I didn't understand. I completely neglected macronutrients for the longest period of time. I always heard people talk about proteins. I always heard people talk about fats. I always heard people talk about carbohydrates. But I thought it was just bullshit. Like, why do I need to know this? This is irrelevant. What does this have to do with anything? It's just what's in food. I'd see it sometimes on the back of food labels, and I'd be like, okay, what is this? Is it just some FDA bullshit that needs to be put here so I don't overdose or something? I don't know. Anyway, that was my thought process. Until a friendly little bird told me, hey buddy, you are way under eating your protein, and that's why you look so small and look the way that you do. And I was like, wait, what? Actually? So I was like, okay, let me track my macronutrients. I'm just gonna see in a week roughly how much protein I'm getting. And it turned out I was absolutely almost 50% under my daily recommended amount for being an active young guy, going to the gym, tearing his muscles, and getting around 80 grams of protein to rebuild his muscles. Can you believe that? I'm 190 pounds and I'm getting 80 grams of protein. No wonder I still look the same. No wonder I haven't made any progress. I'm not eating in accordance to the way that I want to look. And then, boom, light bulb moment. I was like, wow, okay, now this is why I look the same way for the past whatever 2 years. Okay, now it makes sense. So I started focusing on learning more about macronutrients, and I started actually tracking my macronutrients to a T. And then that's when the body recomposition started happening. I started tracking my protein, actually getting my 180 grams of protein. I started actually tracking my carbohydrates and started filling out more properly the way I wanted to look. And then I started tracking my fats. But then I never understood this one thing. I still kind of feel iffy. And that's where micronutrients come into play. And that's where micronutrients came into the way that I felt. Micronutrients determine how you feel. So your vitamins and minerals, those are your micronutrients. And then I started prioritizing my micronutrients, had my macros balanced, and all of a sudden I started looking and feeling the way I actually wanted to feel and look. High energy, getting leaner, and actually, boom, respecting the man I saw in the mirror. I was like, wow, I feel amazing and I look amazing. This is exactly how I need to be performing, and this is how exactly I want to be living. So, why am I making this video and why am I telling you guys this? Because this might be a video for those of you who are already in the gym. You're lifting, whatever, 3 to 5 times, 3 to 7 times a week. But you're still not seeing the results that you want to see. Heads up, if you've been lifting for more than 3 years, you probably have body dysmorphia. Well, at least that's what I have, and that's totally normal. You're just going to suffer with that, especially if you're into weightlifting. It's just a lifelong struggle. Just remind yourself that you look better than you actually think that you look. Because you're always going to feel like you look like shit, whatever. It's just part of life. Accept it, move on with it. So, but besides that, what I want you guys to take away from this is there's really 2 things that you need to focus on when it comes to your proteins. You can always keep your fats the same. Relatively always keep your proteins the same, but make sure you're actually hitting that goal of whatever it is. I usually aim for my body weight that I'm aiming for. So if I'm trying to cut down to, currently I got 4 or 5 more pounds left, I'm trying to get down to 170. So I'm eating at least minimum 170 grams of protein every single day. And then when it comes down to the carbohydrates, this is where the beauty of fat loss comes in. People always say, oh yeah, just remove carbs out of your life. No, you don't need to remove them, but you do need to lower them a little bit, especially if you want to lose that fat. Why? Because carbohydrates hold more water weight, so you're going to look a little bit more bloated if you eat too much. But you need to prioritize when you're trying to lose fat is in a carbohydrate ratio. It's usually when you're bulking or maintaining or trying to gain muscle, you want a 3-to-1 ratio or at least 2.5-to-1 ratio. So if your protein is 180 grams, your carbohydrates are 3 times that. So whatever 180 times 3 is, let's say, I didn't do well in math, I'm sorry guys, 360, 420? Yeah, whatever, I don't know, 430, I don't know. 3 times 180. And then whatever's left over, you just dedicate to the fats. Because fats aren't necessarily that important because they're basically hidden in everything. You eat your protein in your steak, it has a little bit of fat. You eat like chicken thighs, it has a little bit of fat. And that basically controls your hormones and how you feel and your testosterone production, etc. So as long as you're eating fattier cuts of meat, when you're bulking, you'll be fine. When you're cutting, it's a little bit more prominent to focus on because you don't want to completely fuck your hormones and then you feel like a slob or a zombie or like a whatever, like someone with 0 energy because your hormone balance is way off. Once you get extremely lean, that begins to happen. I remember I was even doing this water fast for 7 days and I felt like completely like 0 energy, 0 motivation, just because my body was completely depleted out of nutrients. Obviously, that's one of the things. But then also, I didn't have any fats inside my body to, you know, calculate and keep my hormones in check. It was just a complete circus. It was good, you know, I did it for the right reasons, but you can't do it too often, or else, especially if you're staying active, lifting weights, it's just I don't think it's a good idea. Once in a while, sure, but all the time, hell no. And then, if you're trying to lose, back to the video, sorry, kind of go way off topic right there. If you're trying to lose fat, but still keep a decent shape, of course, keep your calorie deficit to 300 to 500 calories less than your maintenance or your total daily energy. No, forget that one. Just keep your calories below maintenance, like 300 to 500 calories, but then keep your protein to carbohydrate ratio. What I found is the sweet spot is 1-to-1. When you eat your protein to your carbohydrate, when you're trying to lose fat, A, it's going to come off much faster, but B, it's going to give you that tighter look that you're after a lot quicker. And then also, it's going to keep you and give you the energy that you need while you're working out, while you're strength training, and while you're trying to still maintain as much strength as possible. Because remember, when you're trying to lose fat, you're going to lose energy. So what you're going to do is, this is a very key tip. Write this down or jot this into your notes or whatever you take your reminders on. When you are cutting down, you need to preserve as much muscle as possible. So a lot of people are going to, oh yeah, I'm just going to, you know, just show up to the gym. No, you actually have to train and take the training even more seriously when you're cutting down, because you do not want to tap into your muscles and lose muscle weight. You want to keep as much muscles as possible. So shock the shit out of your muscles by keeping your rep ranges and your compound movements like 3 to 5, lift as heavy as possible, and then get out of there, because your energy is going to be depleted like this, especially the lower you come in weight. But you have to remember, keep your compound movements first, go as heavy as possible, just empty the tank. And then for your isolation movements, let's say you're doing chest, you know, you start with bench press, you go really, really heavy at the beginning. And then for your last sets, like you're doing whatever, cable flies or something, yeah, sure, lower the weight and then, you know, bust out 15 reps, that's fine. As long as you're really shocking the central nervous system at the beginning with as heavy as a weight that you can possibly handle for like the 3 to 5 reps. And that way you won't just look like a clown when you're trying to lose fat, and then you won't wonder when you look at yourself in the mirror, why do I look like this? I've been lifting, but I don't look how I want to lift. Yeah, this is exactly why. So if you follow everything in this video, I'm sure it's going to help you. But if you need accountability, if you need some help, and you don't want to, you know, keep flippy-flopping, spinning your circles, etc., hit the first link in the description. It's an application to get coaching with me one-on-one. We'll hop on a call, I'll help you out, see what you need to, you know, get right, and then I'll see if you're a good fit. And hopefully we can get your ball rolling. But besides that, remember, if you're going to take anything from this video, is take this. Train if you're trying to cut down your fat and not look like you are looking. If you're trying to cut down, carbs to protein ratio 1-to-1. Fats, whatever's left in your calories. If you're trying to bulk up in size, depending how long you've been lifting, you know, medium or beginner to medium, beginner to intermediate lifters, like, you know, 1 to 3 years, go to that 2-to-1 range. Anything after 3 years, like if you've been training over 3 years consecutively, do to a 3-to-1 range, because your body is more insulin sensitive, so it can handle the carbohydrates better, not causing you to become fat in the process. And yeah, if you're new, subscribe. I love you guys. I'm gonna leave you like I always do. Create more than you consume, serve others, love everyone. Peace.